maintain that level of commitment, performance, they are absolutely astounding. I mean, the team does, in team terms, what Ayrton Senna does in driver terms. They commit themselves so totally, and it's an amazing operation. It's a large team, but it just seems to get the job done with consistency.
That grid going through again, Senna and Berger, the Tracy Bootson, so McLaren on the front row, then Williams, then Ferrari filling the row 3, and that really has disappointed the tifosi, the fans here. Row 5, Nannini and Warwick. Warwick now getting that Lotus Lamborghini working much better, but Donnelly keeping him honest. Gugelmin, Bernard, Modena, his Brabham also with the rear end from the old car. Tyres, always a big question mark, John. What's the latest news on tyres?
Well, a number of the teams are being fairly tight-lipped about it, but we are expecting to see a mixture of tyres. There are 3 compounds available, but 2 will be used. One is the B compound, the more durable race tyre. The C compound is a tyre I would expect people to use if the conditions were slightly cooler than they are, but what we may see is a mix of B and C in some cars. Williams, I believe, are going to run the B compound all round. Ferrari, Mansell is going to go, I believe, with C. Prost will stick with the Bs. Benetton probably with the B compound, and Lotus a mixture of B and C in one car and Bs all round in another car. Now that's a gamble. Some teams are going 2 ways with each car.
Yes, well, the C is the harder tyre, of course. Oh, sorry, the B is the harder tyre. Johnson's waving his finger at me. And this is the warm-up lap. Barry Griffin of Goodyear just popping in to tell us who's running what.
This tyre thing, Andrew, it sometimes needs explaining. The compounds that are available to all the teams vary in degrees of softness. And on a racetrack like Imola, there are going to be pit stops for tyres. We expect all the teams to make at least 1 pit stop, both Goodyear and Pirelli. The point of going with the slightly harder compound in the early part of the race is that if you run too hard too quickly, you can damage the tyre and therefore damage your car's performance. So by choosing the slightly more durable compound, you may be more consistent in the first part of the race. At the pit stop, your team may then choose to put you on the slightly softer compound, at which point the car is lighter and therefore you can be a little bit more competitive.
Emanuele Pirot slow away at that warm-up lap, and he starts at the back of the field. He is not allowed now to overtake the other cars and take up his grid position. He will start at the back. So Emanuele Pirot having his first Grand Prix of the season. Remember that he was unwell for the opening 2 races. Now back in fine form, but starting at the back.
This is the Acqua Minerale section of the circuit, a very exciting part of the circuit. As you can see by the grandstands, a popular place also. That, in fact, is the place that the unfortunate Pierluigi Martini had that enormous accident on Friday afternoon in qualifying, and we're lucky to see him. He's walking around the paddock, hobbling around, I should say, with a pair of crutches, and we expect to see him back in the car very shortly indeed. And as I say, luckily he was a shortish guy anyway, so the injury was very, very small out of an enormously bad accident.
Yes, I think he measures just about 164 centimetres, 5 foot 4.5-ish. So he's quite a little chap. Another little chap we've seen this weekend down in the paddock, Leo Sayer. Remember some of his records. Apparently got a new album coming out, and he's going to promote that at Grand Prix, he tells us.
Leo's a great Brabham fan. He's been a friend of the Brabham team for 8-10 years now, and they always bring him along, and he's a very welcome guest of the team and a very popular personality in the Formula One pits and motorhomes.
Okay, well, coming round this final chicane, which I think you raced here before they added that one, John.
I think I did, Andrew. That's going back rather longer than I care to remember. But certainly the circuit has changed quite a lot, not in recent years, but in the early 80s they added in a chicane, what they call the Alta chicane, means high chicane, at the back of the circuit to slow the cars down on the run into the Ravazza corners. But this part of the circuit, the Marlborough chicane, was there for quite a few years, and I raced, I think, in Formula 2, and they had a variation. They varied the circuit a number of times, even though the chicanes have been extended, slowed down, and the chicane coming onto the pit straight here is in fact very slow at 2nd gear, but it's quite exciting.
Well, you're live on Eurosport, the race just about 15 seconds before the off. There they are on the grid, engines revving, hearts pounding. waiting for the lights. They will go red and then within 7 seconds, and they don't know how long it'll be. Roland, the starter, will throw the switch. Will go to green and off they go. I wonder what Gerhard Berger feels after last year.
One thing's for sure, I don't think there'll be any first corner commitments between Senna and Berger this year. First there will be first served.
Holding quite a long time, red.
Oh, jump start, big jump start. Berger went.
I think both the McLarens went, John. I wonder if they're going to red flag this race and try and start it again. Didn't seem to get much of an advantage. Everyone seemed to go.
Yes, I think, oh dear me.
Mansell, I think, out in the dirt.
And a couple of, somebody's at the back, one of the Brabhams has gone off.
Bang!
Maybe it was a Tyrrell, we couldn't see. Lacey squeezing down, pushing through one of the Ferraris.
That's Capelli. Capelli's off.
Yes, a number of cars are off. That's the exit of the Tamburello corner. And all this, I think, is a consequence of the race. The cars jumping the start of the race. Boutsen squeezing through into second place ahead of Gerhard Berger. Oh, look at that. That's, I think, Nakajima's Tyrrell. Well and truly, I would imagine we're going to see the race being red flagged. If we have a quick look around the circuit, there should be some form of indication as to what the marshals intend to do. The clerk of the course has got responsibility for the race, and he may well deem that the combination of the jump start and the shunt just exiting Tamburello corner may well need a restart.
Got the McLaren split. We have a Williams, Renault between them. And just look at that damage. The gearbox ripped off the car. Boutsen it is second. Berger third, then Patrese, then Alesi. Then the two Ferraris. Prost, I think, just in front of Mansell. Boutsen. There is Senna. Senna already in the lead. As if the race is going to continue. Boutsen. Boutsen in second spot.
And we've got Jean Alesi thrusting really hard behind Patrese in the Williams in the spare car, so obviously there's no disadvantage to him from that spare car.
There's Satoru Nakajima. He's fine, jumps over the wall. Yellow flags everywhere.
Under the yellow flag, it is not permitted to pass, but as we see a Ferrari shaping up to try and pass Alesi, Mansell and the leading Ferrari trying to find a way through Jean Alesi, but Alesi covered the corner and prevented Mansell making that pass.
Senna, Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, Alesi, Mansell, Prost, Suzuki, Bernard, Warwick, Alio and Capelli. Those are the first 12. And Ayrton Senna on his standing start lap did 1:38.5. Well, that time's going to come down. There in the inset, you see a car already in the pits. Boutsen still hanging on to second spot, and Senna starting to pull away. And the two Ferraris, the two Benettons running together.
I think Boutsen probably is actually holding up Gerhard Berger at this stage, having slipped through in the Piratella corner, catching Berger slightly unawares, but it's giving Ayrton Senna the opportunity to increase his lead.
And Suzuki running very well up. I've been impressed by Suzuki, in fact, John.
Yes, both Suzuki and Eric Bernard and the Lola Lamborghini are becoming very competitive. They benefited, I think, from that first lap shunt. They seem to get through it much more cleanly than many of the other cars, so it's given them the opportunity to run in the top 10. We see Suzuki trying to find a way past Capelli in the march. Berger having a look, but not really. He wasn't far enough up, and Boutsen decisively just slammed the door shut on the nose of the McLaren. I think the only place Berger's going to find a chance to get past is in that particular corner.
Now we've got a replay of that incident. John, maybe you take us through it.
Yes, well, Mansell ran wide, and so did Patrese. He got out of shape, but suddenly we'll see to the left, Nakajima's car ran over the back wheel of another car, turned sharp left, hit the wall on the inside of the left of the circuit, and did a serious
discussion with the wall, yes. But that definitely wasn't Mansell's fault. That was another accident happening altogether. Nigel just going wide on the grass there. And these three breaking away, a little group. And there another incident.
Oh, look, one of the Lotuses, Martin Donnelly, spinning right in the middle of the pack. He must have been tapped in the rear.
And going
oh, my goodness. Oh, dear me.
Well, a real game of dodgems there, and how everyone missed everyone else, I'll never know. But I wonder if Martin Donnelly was able to extract his car from on the grass verge. This is a lap number 3.
Emanuele Perro's Dallara Ford is out of the race. He stopped. He started in the back of the grid. A short race for him today. Bad start and not much better.
There's Patrese. Fourth spot, Alesi.
Mansell. One of the Benettons now behind Mansell. And Mansell's got past Alesi coming down the straight. The superior speed of the Ferrari. Oh, man, look at this. We saw Alesi doing this to Ayrton Senna and Phoenix. And Nigel Mansell is not going to get any less treatment, but the horsepower of the Ferrari just drags it away up the hill into Tamburello corner, and really now Alesi's got to content himself with running in 6th place.
Well, there's another replay.
Yes, that's Emanuele Perro. Spun the car coming out of the Alta chicane and lost the engine. The engine stalled. There's no self-starters on these cars, so his race is over.
Still, the Williams of Thierry Boutsen of Belgium, now based in Monaco, splitting the two red and white McLarens. There's that move again. The standings after 2 laps. John, just there we saw there. Oh, Senna! What's happening there? Senna is off in the dirt, trying to keep it going, because if he doesn't, he'll get stuck. Senna is out! Senna is out! I don't think he's going to move it from there.
No, the car has buried itself now in the sand. There's no way he can move it. We don't know why that happened. Let's have a look. We hope they'll have a replay of that incident and see what took place.
So Thierry Boutsen leads. A big surprise here on Eurosport. There is Senna stepping from the car, looking round the back of it. Wonder if he's telling a marshal to go away.
Well, there's nothing they can do with the car now. I think he's looking around the back of the car, around the gearbox.
Well,
there was a puncture. He's got a right rear puncture. That's the reason. I thought the car looked a little bit flat in the sand, but you can see now, here we are coming round into the Ravazza corners, and Boutsen has driven down the inside. Senna's locked up the left front. Yes, but look, the right rear, the tire, he has picked up a puncture somewhere on the circuit, and that's all he could do. He wasn't able to do any more, and that's a great shame.
Let's just recap the positions then. Now on their 4th lap, Thierry Boutsen leads from Gerhard Berger. Patrese is 3rd, Alesi 4th. Then it's Mansell, Piquet, Prost, Nannini, Warwick, Alio, Bernard, Suzuki, Donnelly, De Cesaris, Modena, Arini, Gruillard, Leto and Foytek. Capelli has had a spin. Nakajima already out with the crash. Pirro spun off and stopped, and Senna already out. So 3 cars already out of the action. Boutsen still leads. John, do you think he can hold off the pressure, which for sure is going to come from the Austrian, from Virgil, Gerhard Berger?
Well, I've been watching Berger and Boutsen at this stage. It does appear Boutsen's a little bit more speed on the straight, and particularly at the end of the straight, and that is the only realistic place I can see Berger being able to try and pass. But if he cannot get close enough to him on the pit straight through the infamous Tamburello corner to try and get down in the inside into the Tossa curve, I think it's going to be really hard. The only factor I feel will alter that situation will be who will come into the pits for tyres, how quick the pit stops are for the change of tyres, and who gets back on the track first.
Senna's car being pushed away onto one of the little side roads here at Imola. And still that pressure on the fans, really loving Nigel Mansell. As we drove in this morning, John, we saw a banner said, "Mansell the Lion, win for us." That was a more or less literal translation. Lots of other banners. These Italian fans just love to make their own banners. Look at the Ferrari flags absolutely everywhere.
Well, Mansell's going to give them a little to cheer about. They would much really rather see one of their scarlet Ferraris at the front of the race, but Mansell is now putting pressure on Patrese, and hopefully he will be able to get within striking distance of the Williams and put himself into 3rd place.
Well, this is lap number 6. Positions after 4 laps: Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, Mansell, Alesi, Piquet in the top 6. Prost is 7th. Just completing lap number 6. Heading towards that Tamburello corner. So plenty of action yet again. Here is Boutsen. So it's a Williams McLaren scrap, followed by a Williams Ferrari scrap. Nigel Mansell having all kinds of problems in qualifying. Hardly got a clean lap over the 2 days, but now the Ferrari going very well.
But there's blue smoke, blue haze coming out of the back of Mansell's Ferrari. Let's have a look at the back of it as he lifts off. We saw just as he was coming up to the Tamburello corner, he lifted off, and that whiff of fine blue smoke came out of the back of the car. There it is again. So it looks like Nigel Mansell's race may not last very long. We've seen Ferraris do this in the past, and some of them have finished, but it's very early in the race for the car to do that, and whether Mansell will make it is, we have to wait.
Recap the top 6. Boutsen first, Berger second, Patrese third, Mansell fourth, Prost fifth, and Alesi in 6th place. That's after 6 laps. There's Mansell coming through that big chicane just before the pits. And it's Prost. Mansell considerably quicker than Prost. A little surprising, John. Prost, of course, the winner in the previous Grand Prix in Sao Paulo.
Well, I'm not surprised. I always maintain that Nigel Mansell is if not the quickest, one of the quickest race drivers in Formula One. I think Alan Prost is a very, very clever race driver. But when it comes down to this sort of the street fighting element, see the haze of smoke from the back of Mansell's car? That's going to be worrying, because the pits are going to know about that. Probably Mansell may not yet see it, but it's going to take its toll on his car as the race progresses.
The caption showing 1.3 seconds now between Boutsen and his pursuer Berger. And Boutsen maybe pulling away a little bit. But Nigel Mansell definitely charging hard after the second Williams. I suspect that Nigel will be able to find a way round, and then there will be a very big cheer indeed from this huge and partisan crowd of over 200,000. From Berger to Patrese, the gap is 3.2 seconds.
But Riccardo Patrese is a difficult man to pass, Andrew, and with Nigel Mansell behind him, to give up 3rd place is going to be very difficult. So I feel we're going to see, should Mansell's Ferrari last and run strong enough, a titanic battle between these two guys. They're both veterans of Formula One, and they know every trick in the book to prevent a driver passing without resorting to the blatant blocking that sometimes you see from less experienced Formula One drivers.
Yes, Patrese competing today in his 195th Grand Prix. That's a record, of course. There's Berger in the 3rd place battle. Classification after 8 laps. Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, Mansell, Prost, and Nannini now up to 6th spot. Nannini just moved up to 6th position. Berger put in a 1:29.558. And there is one of the Lolas, new car here. That was Suzuki. Bernard now just in front of Suzuki. The Union Jack waving. And now we go in car with Nelson Piquet.
Yes, he's the meat in the Lamborghini Lola sandwich. He's got one in front, one behind him. So let's see how they deal with the 3-time world champion.
Piquet in the 11th spot. And that's Aguri Suzuki he's chasing. And Donnelly moving up well. He's gone from 15th to 12th. Just on to lap 10 of the 61. Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, Mansell, and then Prost. 1.3 seconds between Boutsen and Berger. This another brand new car, the Benetton. Not really influenced by John Barnard, John.
No, not yet. John Barnard's car, definitive Barnard car, as Piquet pulls out and attempts to pass Eric Bernard, but he's not really quite far enough up. Well, he's done it. He's got through, and as Barilla, having spun at the chicane onto the pit straight, rejoins the race.
I think we're going to nickname him Barilla the Gorilla.
Yes, but Piquet's made it clear of Eric Bernard, so I think he'll probably pull away quite quickly. The experience of PK probably overcoming maybe the speed and impetuosity of the younger Eric Bernard.
PK up to 10th spot, been in the points in both the opening Grand Prix of the season, snatching 6th spot, of course, on the very last lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix.
John O'Lacey looks like he's also had a big spin, a lot of tyre smoke there, and he's moving away slowly from that high chicane where he's just spun.
I think we're going to see that.
Oh, it's our friend Olivier Grillard and Barilla. Mr. Grillard has succeeded throughout qualifying in both time sessions to always be in the wrong part of the track at the wrong time. Now, whether he was at fault there or not, I suspect at the back of the field these two cars are racing for 23rd or 24th spots, so I'll not lay blame with either driver, but it's amazing that Grillard seems to be getting in the way of everybody these days.
Well, he was the teammate of René Arnoux at Ligier last year. Just wonder about that. Maybe he taught him some of his well-known tricks.
This is John O'Lacey. Oops, look at that, he got a rear wheel just off the track, under braking, the car swapped ends, across the grass. Fortunately, this time, O'Lacey kept his engine running, so he was able to continue.
And still running in 7th spot. Terry Boutsen leads. The lead still pegged at 1.3 seconds. Patrese 3rd, Mansell 4th, Prost 5th. Nannini now in 6th position. 7th is O'Lacey, 8th Warwick, 9th PK, 10th Bernard, 11th Suzuki. 12th place is Donnelly, then Alio, Modena, Gugelmin, Larini, the Cesaris, Leto, Wojtek and Grillard to go through the field. Through that chicane again. And the gap has come down. The gap now just 1 second, just a fraction over 1 second. And Mansell putting in the fastest lap of the race so far. Mansell with 1:29.192. And Prost going even quicker. Their confirmation of that gap closing. There is Nigel Mansell, the man now based in Port Erin in the Isle of Man. Still playing a very good game of golf. And this Imola circuit, one of the more challenging on the 16 race Grand Prix trail. John, your feelings about Imola? It is a testing track, isn't it?
It's a very difficult track. It's one I enjoyed racing on. Indeed, technically, it's very hard for the teams because you've got long straights where the cars get up to a top speed of 192, 93 miles an hour. Then some really low speed corners and chicanes. So to find the balance of the right springing for the car, the right aerodynamic balance, it's such a fine knife edge these days that if you get it right, your car is fantastic. If you get it wrong, you don't qualify for a race. So I enjoy the racetrack. I think the teams come here and test a lot because they value the difficulty of the circuit, and those that get it right benefit.
Still that blue mist coming out of the back of the Ferrari. We've seen it before, and the cars have gone the distance. We've seen it before, John, and they haven't gone the distance.
Well, of course, the spectacular when Mansell retired in Phoenix, his car was blowing out a blue haze, and then all of a sudden there was the most almighty explosion from the engine, and so we just don't know what the problem is, whether it's just a very minor oil leak or whether it is something more that might be described as terminal.
New fastest lap, Thierry Boutsen, 1:29, still 6 seconds off qualifying. And Prost putting in the quick ones also. The end of lap 12, it's Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, Mansell, Prost, Nannini, then O'Lacey, Warwick, PK, Bernard, Suzuki in 11th, Donnelly 12th. Here's O'Lacey getting his rhythm back after that rather difficult moment. What a revelation this man from Avignon is. And I think we see
PK trying to pass Derek Warwick coming up into the Piratella.
He's got him, I think.
Yes, he has. Brave manoeuvre. It's not easy to do that. It's uphill and the corner's blind as you come onto that bridge. I think Warwick actually assisted PK in that overtaking manoeuvre.
John, from the camera car, you can see much better the gradients here at Imola.
Yes, the circuit has got a lot of rise and fall. That's part of what makes it such an attractive racetrack.
So still Thierry Boutsen leading. A man who has never started from the front row of a grid, but of course won those 2 wet races last season for Williams.
Well, his performances in the wet are beyond reproach. They were absolutely outstanding. But Thierry Boutsen will want to win a race in the dry. He doesn't want to have a reputation as being a good wet weather race driver. He wants to be a great racing driver in all conditions.
All the times coming down. Boutsen just dipping into the 28s. So is Berger, so is Patrese. They're all now down in the high 128s. 1.1 seconds the gap. Fastest lap so far, Patrese. Piquet in front of Warwick now. We saw that from Piquet's car. And I suspect that blue mist getting a little bit thicker. No, you can't see it there. Then when he goes on the power. This is lap 14. There you see the top 6 on the caption. Well, Williams certainly having a very good race. This FW13, designed by Patrick Head and built in Didcot, Berkshire, England. The second most successful Grand Prix team in the last decade. Early part of the 80s, they did most of the winning, with McLaren chasing them. The second half of the decade, it was all turned around a bit. Honda engines, of course, being a major factor during the period. Williams losing that deal and still really smarting from losing those Honda engines, but now building up an excellent relationship with Renault. And this Renault RS02 engine, completely different from last year's engine, and a few extra modifications, we're told, this weekend seem to be working very well. Big commitment from Renault.
Not only have Renault really worked very hard to improve the performance of their engine, Williams have done so with the car, the chassis of the car, and even as late as Thursday morning, the weekend of the Grand Prix, they were testing at Donington some brake modifications which they only got available on the day when the teams were departing to come to Imola. So that just shows you the commitment that everybody in Formula One has to make if they want to be competitive.
Just to recap, Nakajima, Pirro, Senna, all out of the action. Senna out, a puncture took him on a trip into the gravel bed, and there he was stuck with a rear tyre completely flat.
I'm sure that puncture was a consequence of the first lap accident. There must have been bits of bodywork or metal on the track just after the exit of the corner, the Tamburello corner. Something has probably cut into the tyre, and that's been the cause of that deflation. It didn't happen suddenly. It's something that's been probably going on over the 2 laps that he stayed in the race.
Senna looking for a hat-trick here, 3 wins in a row, but it's not to be. Well, a super start to the race. Thierry Boutsen still leads, so stay with us. More action in just a few moments after this. Back, and you see a pit stop. That's Mauricio Gugelmin. Boutsen leads from Berger, Patrese, Mansell and Prost, and Berger is definitely getting closer. The gap, as you rejoin us live on Eurosport, now just 0.7 of a second. Berger on the big charge. Now you see it on the screen. Berger right up the gearbox of Thierry Boutsen. Belgium versus Austria. John, do you think maybe Thierry made a mistake, or has he got problems with tyres or brakes? What's happening?
Could be any of those things, Andrew, but I think sometimes what happens when you're trying to follow a car very closely, it pays to drop back, just catch your breath, and then have another charge and have the chance to try and come up to the car ahead of you quickly and more cleanly, and not run into the disturbed air that the car ahead of you is giving your front wings, the whole car. So I suspect that Berger might have tried to have a little bit of a run. That's an unusual shot of Michele Alboreto that was taken during qualifying and practice.
I don't know what that's doing in there.
That's a very odd shot to see in a Grand Prix. Maybe that was to try and fool the commentators today.
I think it was. The 2 footwork arrows not taking part. And as we saw the truck leave the circuit on Saturday evening, we know the cars aren't here.
They most certainly are not here. Neither is Michele Alboreto.
Oh dear.
But you see the gap has again opened up. And that's what you're going to see. The cars coming out of the chicane. Boutsen is accelerating sooner, so therefore the gap appears to extend. But by the end of the straight, because Berger will be braking that a little bit later. It'll goes back up again.
Lap 17, no, lap 18 now of the 61, and Nigel Mansell has now put in the fastest lap so far, 1:28.786. It's Boots and Berger, Patrese, Mansell, Prost and Nannini.
And we're looking at Jean Alesi. He's going to be gobbled up very quickly by Nelson Piquet.
Yeah, that's the battle for 7th spot.
Yeah. I think that the speed of Piquet is Benetton. Look at the way he pulls out and passes Alesi. Really no trouble at all. Now that may be the consequence of Alesi. Maybe the T car that is in the engine in that car may not have been just quite so strong. It wasn't the prime choice of car, so maybe they put the prime engine into his race car. The consequence being that the top speed of the Tyrrell on the straight is most definitely slower than that of Nelson Piquet's Benetton with the new Ford HP engine. Here we see it again. Piquet did it absolutely perfectly, came round the corner, picked the draft, moved to the left, got a clean shot, passed Alesi, and then was able to take the tosser hairpin without any trouble whatsoever.
Yes, with the old style Ford engine design almost 25 years ago against an engine that was only designed 2 years ago. But still quite a lot of development on the old costless DFR, originally called the DFB. John, tell us about, let's have a look at the pits there in the inset.
Thierry Boutsen in the pits.
Boutsen in the pits for a fresh set of tyres, maybe that's why he slowed. Gerhard Berger now.
This isn't a tyre stop, he's in the pits, he's got a mechanical problem. The way he came into the pits, it didn't look as if it was just tyres he was coming in for. There's something mechanically wrong with the car. Talking the driver and the team over the two-way radios, and I think that's the end of the day for Thierry Boutsen.
Well, we have got Matthew Lorenzo down in the pits, so maybe we'll be able to catch a few words with Thierry and come back to us on that one. Berger now leads. This is lap 19. Berger, Patrese second, Mansell third. That'll cheer up the Ferrari fans. Prost fourth, then Nannini and Piquet in the Benettons. Then Alesi, Warwick, Bernard and Donnelly complete the top 10. So it is a McLaren after all now leading the San Marino Grand Prix. You are live on Eurosport. You can be live for every single Grand Prix of the season, of course. Eurosport #1 for motorsport. A lot of people in the paddock talking about our German touring car coverage as well. That was actually shown in the press room here at Imola today. Now we're seeing a replay. Ooh. John, take us through that.
Well, there's something went wrong, mechanically, seriously wrong with Boutsen's Williams Renault. Berger was able to come past in the Ravazza corner, not a place you'd expect to pass. I suspect mechanically, engine or gearbox, something has gone wrong for Thierry Boutsen. But look at Nigel Mansell, he's still charging. There's still blue haze smoke coming out of the back of his Ferrari, but he's still getting stuck in and giving Patrese a hard time. And in fact, all three cars are beginning to bunch up again, so the gap between Gerhard Berger leading and Nigel Mansell is little over 2 seconds.
As Nigel Mansell shown extraordinarily on the front cover of an Italian magazine last week on a cross. They say the press are crucifying him in Italy. The headline said, Ferrari defends him, the fans love him, but the press crucify him. That's the sort of extraordinary things they do in motoring magazines in Italy. Quite a nice painting it was, actually.
I think it's an appalling thing what they did to Nigel Mansell. He's driven absolutely outstandingly in 1989 for Ferrari, but that just shows the fickleness of the fans and of magazines. It's a very difficult team to be a part of. If you're the winning driver in the team, you're a national hero. If you're having problems, then it's never the fault of the Ferrari car, it's always the driver. And I'm afraid that Nigel, with two poor races in the first two races, Phoenix and Brazil, that was a shame.
Suzuki missing, we're told. Gary Suzuki has gone out. Trying to understand that pit signal, John. Did you catch it? P on. Wonder what that means.
The only thing I can imagine is that it means put on the fuel pump. I can't imagine why they would need to put a fuel pump on at this stage in the race, because the amount of fuel in that fuel tank, which should be in excess of 30 gallons at this point in the race. So there may be a problem with the pickup of the car in slow corners. Maybe there's fuel surge, something like that, which may cause the car to hesitate. So by putting on the mechanical or the electrical fuel pump, which the car will have, to keep the fuel in the fuel collector pot full.
Berger has just lapped the Minardi. That's Barilla.
And this is a chance for Mansell, in fact, to catch up to Patrese, because Barilla's car is going to be in an awkward spot on the circuit. Oops, Patrese sliding a little bit coming out back in the rally. But coming up now to the high chicane, there's a chance for Mansell to take advantage of Barilla holding up Patrese.
John, we're just about at 1/3 distance. Let's recap the positions. Berger leads Patrese by 2 seconds. Then it's Mansell, a hard charging third. In 4th spot, Prost. 5th, Nannini. And again, Minardi being lapped cleanly by the 2nd and 3rd men. Berger, Patrese, Mansell, Prost, Nannini, Piquet, that's the top 6. Then 7th, Alesi, 8th, Warwick, 9th, Bernard, 10th, Donnelly, then Alio, Larini, De Cesaris, Leto and Modena. That's the top 16.
And that little episode with Barilla, as you can see, gave Mansell a slight advantage. He was able to close to within about half a second of Patrese, and now on the straight, he is again perfectly placed in the slipstream of Riccardo Patrese to try and have an overtaking manoeuvre at the end of the straight into this. Here we go, Mansell absolutely perfect, pulling out, pulling to the left, but Patrese's elbowing him a little bit to the left, but Mansell, is he? Yes, he has. He's got it. Oh, he's locked up the left brake, but he's got through. Now he's got to prevent Patrese from trying to overtake, which he's managed to do. Well, that was a clever bit of driving by Nigel Mansell. Not only does he know how to overtake, but he knows that once he's got that place, not to prevent the driver from doing it back to him.
Nigel Mansell up to 2nd place. Let's not forget Ayrton Senna already out. And more blue smoke, I think, from Mansell. Can the Ferrari keep going? Nigel Mansell really charged up, urged on now by 200,000 screaming Italian fans. About 50,000 of them seem to be waving Ferrari flags.
But Andrew, we've got to feel sorry for Patrese, because now he's behind Mansell. That haze, that oil haze you're seeing, there's going to be very, very fine droplets of oil, and it's going to go all over the front of Patrese's Williams, over his helmet, over his visor, and it's going to restrict his vision. And of course Alan Prost is now beginning to breathe down the exhaust pipes of Riccardo Patrese.
With Oliver Griard in the way, and certainly Prost on a big charge. Berger still in the lead, onto his 23rd lap, past the spot where he had that enormous accident. There's Mansell. Berger leads, Mansell 2nd, Patrese 3rd, Prost it is in 4th place, then it's Nannini. So, Berger, Mansell, Patrese. You see it on your screen. And maybe Jean Alesi about to make a pit stop. And now down in the pits, let's go to Matthew Lorenzo, who should have some news for us on the problems with Thierry Boutsen. Matthew.
Thanks, Andrew. Just had a brief word with a very disconsolate Thierry Boutsen as he disappeared into his motorhome. He said he'd had problems with the gearbox from the start of the race, and then at one stage he went from 3rd to 1st in one shift, and there's only one result after something like that, and it's a very sick-looking Williams in the pit now with oil pouring out all over the place.
Matthew, while we're on the line, did you manage to talk to Senna? He presumably got back to the pits.
I'm afraid no sign of that young man.
Well, Senna out, and also Thierry Boutsen out. Matthew Lorenzo bringing us the news that it was gearbox trouble which sidelined the Williams Renault. So this is lap number 24. Berger still lapping in the 129s. Mansell now 4.2 seconds behind him. Patrese 3rd, Prost 4th, then Nannini, and then a very long gap then to Nelson Piquet in 6th spot. They're close up there of that smoke, John.
Andrew, I think at this stage in the race we're seeing the lap times falling back from the sort of the high 28s into the middle 29s, and it's really going to be a strategy on the part of the driver, but really of the pits, the team manager in the pits, as to what point they think they want to have the drivers in. As we say, Jean Alesi has come in to put on a fresh set of Pirelli tyres on his Tyrrell, so now we're going to see a little bit of activity, but who will be first in, or who's going to stay out and wait until the last possible moment? One of the very exciting parts of a Grand Prix, and a very good pit stop by the Tyrrell team to get Jean Alesi back in the race.
And now an Onyx, a Monteverde Onyx, we've got to learn to say that, about to be lapped.
Yes, and always a difficult part of the circuit coming into Ravazza to get a clean shot down in the inside. Mansell got through cleanly, was able to get through the second part of the corner without anybody ahead of him, and again a slight advantage. The ability to use traffic to your advantage is something Mansell has really developed into a very fine art. And as you see, Patrese got held up behind Gregor Wojtek in the Onyx. Alan Prost, well, they both have gone through. Wojtek saw them, let them through, but that will have increased the lead right now that Berger's got.
The lead, 4.4 seconds on the Longines Olivetti computer timing system. Patrese is third, then Prost, then Nannini. Wojtek running in 16th spot in that Onyx, which we just saw lapped. Prost now challenging Patrese for third spot. Up the hill again. Plenty of the fans are using the advertising hoardings as grandstands. So we're still watching this battle. A blistering hot day here. Williams versus Ferrari. Ayrton Senna. An early exit from the Grand Prix here at Imola. Call it the San Marino Grand Prix. It is really the second Italian Grand Prix. Italy allowed 2 Grand Prix, and why not? In fact, it has to be said that the Principality of San Marino actually has another racetrack closer to it than this one. That's Misano Adriatico, close to Rimini. And that, of course, sees the Italian Motorbike Grand Prix. A track which actually has floodlights around it. They hold night racing there. So Berger still leads, 2.8 seconds now from Mansell. Patrese third, Prost fourth, Nannini in 5th spot. A fascinating Grand Prix. Mansell just put in the fastest lap. Stay with us, we'll be back live on Eurosport after this. Back live at Imola on Eurosport. Berger leads Mansell, Patrese, Prost, Nannini and Piquet. The gap now 3.5 seconds because we had some awkward lapping while you were away at the break, and the Brabham of Modena got in the way a little bit, couldn't do much else. And John, there is Prost box. That means Prost coming to the pits for fresh tyres. John Watson.
Oh, you've had a touch, and Mansell was touched. Andrea de Cesaris did not see Nigel Mansell. He should have been using his mirrors. He didn't. He tipped the right front tyre of Nigel Mansell. Mansell half spun, went across the grass, recovered, but of course lost momentum. Andrea did, I don't know what he was doing. I mean, this is just absolutely stupid. Mansell very lucky indeed to get away with not spinning totally and losing both not position, but even going out of the race. But of course he's now got Riccardo Patrese much closer to him than he previously had. But Andrea now using his mirrors, you can see his head looking in the mirrors. Oh, wasn't my fault, wasn't my fault, he says.
He's lying in 13th place, Nakajima out. We saw that crash at the beginning. Pirro out, Senna off with that puncture. Boutsen out with a gearbox problem. Suzuki has already exited the action also. So it's Berger, Mansell, Patrese, Prost, Nannini, Piquet. And now we're in the period where there are a number of pit stops. Alesi already on fresh Pirellis and really putting in some quick laps. Nelson Piquet down in 6th place is 15 seconds behind his teammate Nannini. Derek Warwick 7th, and Alesi now chasing after Derek Warwick, very close behind him. Then Bernard, then it's Donnelly in 10th place. And at last he gets past.
Well, fortunately, de Cesaris saw Alan Prost behind him, and I think that nudge with Nigel Mansell actually woke him up. I don't know what he thought he was doing. One of the things when you're in a car that's not running at the front is using your mirrors, and this year it's been mandatory that cars now have been fitted with mirrors that you can see out of. You can actually see things going on behind you. I think Andrea's eyes weren't on his mirrors. They may have been ahead of him, but certainly not where they should have been at that particular point of the circuit.
Of course, he is one of the most experienced men in Grand Prix racing.
Alan Prost in the pits.
Prost in the pits. The counter running, see how long it takes. It's going to be a very quick one indeed.
Yep.
6.7 seconds, John, and that's very near a record, I think.
I have to say the timekeeper was a little bit generous because they stopped the clock before the car was actually moving, so I'd have said it was a bit over 7 seconds, but still a pretty good pit stop, and one that will get Alan Prost back in the race. And really, I don't think he's going to lose any ground, and he may well have an advantage over the other cars that have yet to come in.
That incident with the Cesaris has dropped Nigel Mansell back to 6.4 seconds behind Gerhard Berger. They are now running on lap number 29, and Berger has just turned a 1 minute 28.7 second lap. Mansell currently lying second. Mansell pulling away from his pursuers.
And I would expect to see very shortly Gerhard Berger coming in to make a pit stop for tyres to take advantage of that that sort of hiccup that Mansell had, and get in quickly, change his tyres, get back out again.
Here is Gerhard Berger, 30 years old from Virgil, 86 Grand Prix starts, 5 of them on pole position. Made his Grand Prix debut back in '84 with ATS. Subsequently drove for Arrows, then Benetton, then 3 years with Ferrari. One of his hobbies, he tells us, is ice hockey, and of course he loves skiing as well. Ice hockey seems a somewhat dangerous sport for a racing driver to compete in, John.
I think it's all about adrenaline, Andrew. Skiing, ice hockey, motor racing, they're reaction sports, tremendously exciting. I've never played ice hockey, I've skied, I know what that feels like. So I'm not at all surprised. Gerhard really does enjoy his speed, and once you get the adrenaline coursing through the veins, it's a wonderful feeling.
Well, if you've just joined us, Ayrton Senna went out on lap 3. He appeared to get a puncture. In fact, he did get a puncture and disappeared into a sand trap and was unable to extract the car from there, although I have to say he didn't really try very hard. A right rear punctured. We think probably in some of the bumping and boring that went on the opening lap of the race. That was Donnelly moving up past Bernard for 9th spot. A recap on the positions. Lap 30 of the 61, just coming up to halfway. Berger it is who leads from Mansell. Patrese 3rd, Nannini 4th, Prost, Piquet, Warwick, Alesi, and then, as we told you, Donnelly moving ahead of Bernard. Mansell down in the 127s, the first man down in the 127s, just did a 127.999 as Mauricio Gugelmin from Brazil comes in. The Leighton House people all around the car. A quick get well soon for Ian Phillips, the team director. Ian's not with us this weekend. He's been quite ill over the last few weeks.
Alan Prost on his fresh tyres.
Coming up to the fastest point on the circuit, John, there, I think, about before that corner.
Yes, it is. The cars are reaching around 190 miles an hour. In race trim, probably slightly low that, but it is the quickest part of the circuit and a very exciting part because the braking distance into the Tossa hairpin is very, very short indeed. So thousands upon thousands of fans choose that part of the circuit to watch from. And of course, it is one of the principal overtaking parts on the circuit.
Yes, for those of you in kilometres per hour, that's just bang on 300. Jean Alesi now charging after Nelson Piquet. Berger still leads the gap now, 4.7 seconds. It seems to have settled in at that now. Mansell still be angry under that Union Jack crash helmet about that incident with the Cesaris. Certainly lost him 2 seconds, maybe a little more.
Yes, and not only may have lost him those 2 seconds, you never know if there's been any damage done to the steering of Mansell's car. A little nudge like that can bend the steering on the car. The arms are very light, they're not intended to be knocked by another car, so it may have affected the handling of his car. Of course, it can affect tyre wear as well, so Nigel very dissatisfied and displeased with the Cesaris' performance, so I think he may well seek him out after the race and point out to him that the mirrors are there to be used, they're not just there for styling exercises.
Nannini now just 5 seconds behind Patrese. Now we're just seeing the first shot we've seen of the Ligiers, and they're Onyx, and these are some of the back markers about to be lapped by Alan Prost. Marini, Leto, Modena running in 12th, 13th, 14th spot. 3.9 seconds, so the gap has closed.
Well, what's interesting is that Alan Prost on his fresh tyres isn't really seeming to get any major advantage out of it. His lap times are on the low 28s, but Mansell has done an even quicker time on used tyres, so I wonder whether Prost has chosen to go with a slightly more durable compound, the harder B compound, on his second set of tyres, rather than opting and taking a chance on the more competitive but softer C tyre.
John, we can't see it on the screen, but just noticing on the computer, look at the gap between Derek Warwick and Martin Donnelly. That battle for 8th place now. Well, 0.1 of a second.
Yes, and remember Martin Donnelly on that first lap into the Tossa hairpin bend had a miracle escape from a very unexpected spin, so he really is charging, and I think for Lotus and Lamborghini it's very heartening to see, after a very difficult start to the season, that the competitiveness of the car, the chassis, the engine is beginning to show through, and two drivers are very strong indeed as well.
There are the computer graphics showing the relative positions of the three cars. Well, those distances between them are 3 seconds and 4 seconds. 3 seconds between Berger and Mansell, 4 seconds between Mansell and Patrese. Then it's Nannini, Prost in 5th place, then Piquet in 6th. And over to Matthew Lorenzo, who has now some news of Ayrton Senna. Matthew.
The news pretty much as you predicted, Andrew. He said he ran over some debris on the course, and as soon as he'd done so, he knew what had happened.
Matthew, did he say whether he tried to get the car back to the pits or not?
I don't think he had much chance of that. The car had completely deflated. At one stage, the McLaren mechanics thought it had hit a hot spot and simply exploded, but Senna confirmed when he came back to the pits that it was debris that had caused the puncture.
Matthew Lorenzo in the pits, John Watson with me in the commentary position as we watch the Williams Renault V10 there of Riccardo Patrese. Remember, we already heard from Matthew, the sister car of Thierry Boutsen, who led this race in gearbox problems, caused him to retire. And now the gap between Berger and Mansell, 1.9 seconds. Nigel Mansell is on the charge. Meanwhile, we're going in car with Alessandro Nannini. We went in car with him in qualifying, and he gave us a very, well, in practice in fact, and he gave us a very exciting ride when suddenly the car just basically drove off the track and into the wall, just about there, John.
Well, Andrew, in fact, it was, maybe it's coincidental, but the car that he was trying to pass, and really probably didn't see Nannini, was our friend Cesaris. So Andreas Mirrors obviously needs a little bit of readjusting, both in qualifying and in the race.
It's been a bit like that for the last 8 or 9 years, I think. There, Nigel Mansell charging after Berger.
And that gap's closing. That's closed very quickly in the last lap or so.
Very quickly indeed. And the Tifosi are going mad. Can you see them waving him on? Go, Nigel, go, they're saying. What's the Italian for that?
Go.
Via or something like that, yes. Must take some Italian lessons.
Avanti. I think that's the word you're looking for, Andrew.
Thank you. Word of thanks to our producer, James Venner, who just showed us that one.
But Mansell's just on a lap of 127.9. Patrese done a 127.8, so suddenly there's a lot of activity going on at this stage in the race. These three guys really trying to make a major move, but Mansell seems to be the man right now who's in a position to put pressure on the Gerhard Berger. And look at the crowd at the Tossa hairpin, they're going mad.
Yes, Mansell, of course, taking Berger's, being teammates previously. Prost the fastest lap now, so maybe those fresh tyres are working. Nigel Mansell through the chicane. They are up. They are on, John, lap number 35.
So we're well into the second part of the race now. None of these three leading cars has dared dive into the pits. I thought maybe Berger might have done so a few laps back when Mansell was held up by De Cesaris' car, but it's he stayed out, and maybe that's been the penalty. Mansell is closed up and he's very much within attacking range, and Berger, you see, putting a wheel off the curb, exiting that corner, throwing up a lot of cloud and maybe the odd pebble in the face of Nigel Mansell.
Well, in the old days, we saw Sir Jack Brabham, who we talked to earlier, do that deliberately. It was one of his favourite tricks.
Indeed it was. It was a ploy he used successfully, and anybody that got behind Sir Jack in the early 60s often had a pebble rash in his face. But here we go, my Mansell! Oh, my goodness! But he's okay, he's kept it going.
Wow!
What an amazing piece of driving, but that was naughty. Berger deliberately drove him off the track. That was unbelievable, something I would not have expected Berger to do. Mansell was committed to coming past him, he had no room to go. He had to go off the track, he spun, and amazing, he not only kept the car going, but it ended up in the right direction, engine running, probably got it down into third or fourth gear, but that was naughty, that was wrong of Berger. And he was ever so lucky that Mansell did not have a major accident, but his tyres undoubtedly will be flat spotted from that spin. You can see the marks on the track. Mansell, I suspect, is now going to have to come into the pits and put on some fresh tyres. But Berger was really guilty of something that is, well, of a driver of his experience and class, he should not have been found guilty of doing.
Recap on the retirements, Nakajima out. We just saw the wreckage of the car, very nearly collected by Nigel Mansell. Pirro out, Senna out with that puncture. Boutsen out with a gearbox problem. Suzuki has gone missing also. Well, Mansell was just half a second behind Berger. The gap has increased now. Tracy would have closed up. Mansell not going into the pits, John.
No, his tyres, he mustn't have too much problem, although they left a bit of rubber on the track. The one thing about a spin like that, if you put your brakes on and you stop the wheels rotating, what it does is it just buffs the rubber off the part of the tyre that's in contact with the road. So Nigel had the spin, he didn't have his foot in the brake, so the tyre was rotating as the car was spinning, and therefore the rubber that was being laid was coming from all around the tyre. Therefore he doesn't really seem to have a problem. If he had a major vibration, he would have been forced into the pits.
3.6 seconds then. Now the gap between Berger and Mansell. Patrese is fourth, Nannini, Patrese is third, sorry, Nannini in fourth spot, then Prost and Piquet. Well, an absolutely fabulous San Marino Grand Prix. Stay with us, we'll be back in just a moment. On Eurosport, this is Imola. Gerhard Berger leads by 3.3 seconds from Nigel Mansell after Mansell's huge scare. Patrese is third, Nannini, Prost and Piquet. That's the top six. There you see the gap. And while you were away, we saw the Monteverdi Onyx go out with Gregor Wojtek, stopped at the side of the track. Obviously don't know the problem quite yet. Looks as if it had just pulled off, maybe gearbox problem. Senna, remember, out on the third lap. We heard reporter Matthew Lorenzo bringing you that story. And there, that is the gap between the leading two cars, Gerhard Berger.
Nigel Mansell is eating in again to the lead that Gerhard Berger has. It's now down to 2.3 seconds. But over that bump in the middle of the corner, you saw the bottom of the car, the shower of sparks coming off it. At the same time, there's a puff of smoke. It's been puffing smoke all day. Still going though.
Down in the Ferrari pit, tyres are at the ready. Will Nigel Mansell be coming in soon? Can Gerhard Berger go the complete distance on his Goodyear rubber? John, your opinion?
Well, I don't think all three drivers are capable of running at this pace without making a tyre change, but it's a little bit of a game of chess. No one's quite sure what point they want to come in and make a stop. If somebody comes in, I think all three will certainly make the same decision, but until that one person makes the decision, nobody seems to be prepared to do so. And right now, Mansell's tyres seem to be in the best condition of anybody. He's just on a 127.6. Wojtek's car we see being lifted up by the crane and put on the other side of the crash barriers in safety.
There's Nigel Mansell. What an exciting driver he is, John. No wonder the...
that's it. Mansell's race is finished. His engine has blown up. What we've been watching throughout the course of the race suddenly is ended, and that's a sad retirement. That's a major engine blow up. And after a brilliant drive by Mansell in which he had all sorts of conditions to contend with, first Cesarez bumping into him, then with Berger forcing him off the track, and then an enormous spin. He kept the car running and still started.